Okay, I've decided I am going to pre-order the Sony Alpha A7s Mark II, and that will be able to be pre-ordered starting tomorrow at midnight. So there's a couple of cameras that have been recently announced that I've been looking at. Let me run through them real quick here. Here's the Panasonic. Now this one, the big plus on this one is it will shoot 4K at 60p, 60 frames a second. That's a big plus in my opinion. But it has a smaller sensor. It has the micro four thirds sensor, and it has an f2.8 to f4.5 fixed lens. So in my opinion, it's going to be difficult to get a shallow depth of field, especially when the subject is close to the camera and you want to shoot at the wider angle. So if you're doing an interview of two people, for example, and you're shooting from the waist up and you want to be fairly close to them so that people don't walk in between you and the camera and so on, it's going to be difficult in some of those situations to get a shallow depth of field if you want to. And since you can't change the lens, you're just not going to have a lot of versatility in that regard. Now the other camera that just was announced is this Sony, and this is a Super 35, so it's a bigger sensor than the micro four thirds. It's about an APS-C size sensor basically. But again, with that APS-C size sensor, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get the shallow depth of field when compared to a full frame sensor. And this is an E-mount. It uses the same mount as the A7s. And there's actually a kit lens that comes with it. That's a pretty good lens if you buy the camera that comes with the kit lens. I think it's a little over $6,000. And that lens is a fixed f4 aperture. And zoom range to I think about the equivalent of about 24 to 135, but don't quote me on that. So not a lot of reach there, and again the f4 fixed aperture with an APS-C size sensor, it's going to be a little bit tricky to get a shallow depth of field in some instances, whereas you have much more flexibility on shallow depth of field if you go to the full frame sensor on the A7s, and then add into that the low light capability of the A7s, which is just phenomenal. And I think it's the best compromise of all of these cameras right now. And of course this is a changing scenario here because cameras are coming out all the time, and I was really hoping that the A7s was going to have 60p, 60 frames a second in 4K mode, but unfortunately it does not. But I'll just have to go with the 30p for now, and that of course limits what I can do as far as slow motion when shooting 4K. So I'm going to pre-order it tomorrow night. Let me know what your thoughts are. Are you going to be pre-ordering any of these cameras? Are you still waiting? What's your 4K strategy going forward? And please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.